Greetings everyone, my name is Utterville, and welcome to the finale of my Let's Play of Weapon Hacker. In this episode, I'll try out Masochist Mode, where I start out on second quest difficulty. According to the description, this is supposed to be harder than hard mode, but we'll see about that. Unlike hard mode, I start at max health. And I got lucky with my initial drop. That one bonus DPS is going to be pretty handy. I'm gonna have to play it really safe here. I can't afford losing extra health. That was simply a bad spot. Oh good, a flamethrower. Already looking good. That should handily deal with the first two bosses. That's it, I'm out of here. Those jumper enemies are the biggest problem. That's the way forward too, I don't have missiles. Worth it. To be frank, the starting of this mode is easier than hard mode. The primary reason being you start with more health, and also because health drops are rare. No. I don't have a choice. Well, that was a complete failure. That's one. In wide open spaces, the flying skulls aren't too much of a trouble. It's only in enclosed spaces where it's the opposite. And not worth it. Missiles are less valuable than my health. That's handy. Before I go in there, enjoy your acid bath. As I probably mentioned earlier, in every one of the normal facilities, there's a hidden teleporter that leads into the second quest. It's called Masochistic because usually when you enter it, you have a bunch of upgrades. And the second quest has tougher enemies and tougher configurations of enemies. The fire and electric modifiers are the best ones in the game. I'm surprised there isn't an ice one. How much of the upgrade? Pretty substantial. Now I can equip that. I should be all set for the first boss now. But first, apparently there was an enemy hidden there. So many DPS upgrades in a short period of time. I simply need to not jinx myself. That's all. I know there's a battery in the early room. Close shave. Outside of the greater quantity of enemies, the room structures are basically the same. It's not like there are more spikes everywhere. Here we go. If I was more skilled, I could probably just rocket launch them all to death. Like that. Oh, bouncing. No matters. It was well worth it. That's it, I'm out. That'll be handy later. I'll save that for the final boss. Sadly, despite the several playthroughs I did both on-screen and off-screen, I never was able to locate an entrance to the second quest. Unlike many other titles, knockback is pretty important here. This run is going pretty well. I'm gonna fully restore my health before diving in. Here we go. I wish I knew the official names of these bosses. Only thing left is to mop up the enemies. I was crouching. One saving grace of the snappers is that if they're too far off screen, they won't notice you. However, if they notice you and you go off screen, they'll still lunge towards you. There's the battery I wanted. What's here? Perfect. Let's get out of this sector. But first... So here's my new setup. It doesn't max out my DPS, but I'd rather have spread fire for both weapons. DPS isn't everything here. That's what I was worried about. Oh yeah, also I forgot to upgrade my missiles. If only I was better at the game, then I could easily farm up missiles. By this point, this only feels slightly more challenging than normal mode. Hard mode is easily a tougher challenge than this. Not gonna risk it now. Looks like I'll acquire the grub suit. And here it is. Some upgrades are definitely better than others. For instance, the grub suit. Not only does it allow me to crawl into tight spaces, it also reduces my hitbox size, which is invaluable for certain room setups. Ow, ow, ow. That was bad. Another thing that'll be really handy for the final boss. Which is simply invaluable for certain room setups. No. I'll take increased shot range instead. My least favorite upgrade is the run speed upgrade. Really, the first boss can randomly spawn in here? Okay, Weapon Hacker, we'll play your game. I strongly wish this game had a slow movement button, as once you acquire that upgrade, you almost become too quick. Double jumping is one of the other nice upgrades. It gives you more finesse. I prefer it over high jumping. One upgrade type which I barely encountered was the health upgrade. Those are extremely handy in any run. Cool. I'll save up for a future shop. On to the second boss. But first, some cleanup. Really bad spot for this. Phew. Well, that turned out kinda poorly. I probably should not have destroyed those devourers. I was planning on using the missile rush. I'm going to return to the nearest shop. Never mind. Instead I get the high jump. That would have been handy for the boss battle. Let's try out the next shop. Shot slowdown doesn't seem to be that useful, but I likely don't have the proper setup for it. Time slowdown, on the other hand, I really need a full health bar for the final boss. What? So close. I panicked a bit there from the enemy spawning in. If I simply went for the third sector, I probably could have survived for longer. I died for a similar reason on hard mode. I had a nice set of upgrades and items, but not the things I desired the most. More health and medkits. Although in the former's case, I actually had a medkit. I'll likely play Masochist Mode a few more times off screen. In fact, if I complete it, I'll include the footage of it as a bonus episode. With all that said and done, it's time for me to give my overall thoughts on Weapon Hacker as a whole. First, starting with the graphics. They were subpar to okay. They get the job done, but I feel they could have been done better. Especially a few of the models and environments. They scream budget to me, and not necessarily in a good way. Despite that, I like how they built an atmosphere of a derelict facility, overrun by monsters. I like how the inspector is wearing a yellow suit, as a reference to Samus. Next up is the music. It's also on the atmospheric side, mostly staying out of the way. None of them are memorable to me, sadly, but they do enhance the facility's atmosphere. I do wish, however, there were a few more tracks. That's all I have to say about the music. Now on to the meat of the game, the gameplay, where I have some mixed feelings about. First, what I liked. I like all the combinations of weaponry you can build. You have straightforward weapons like the basic blaster, missile launcher, flamethrower, and tracer spark, and more non-standard ones like the upward firing one, the grid shot, and the saw, plus several others I probably never encountered. Combine those with all the various weapon parts you can acquire, like damage up, fire rate up, spread fire, homing, etc. On top of that, you can equip multiple weapons at once. No wonder this game has millions and millions of weapon combinations. It's fun to experiment, and I especially like how DPS is not necessarily king. I found knockback to be more crucial for survival. I wish, however, there was a cold weapon or cold elemental modifier. Fire already focuses on damage over time, electric already focuses on knockback, and the ice element would focus on slowdown. And just like most other Metroidvanias, you acquire ability upgrades along the way. Last thing I like about this game are the various challenges available. On to what I'm neutral about. The enemy selection is fine, yet I wish there was a greater variety in enemies. The lack of such becomes noticeable on repeated playthroughs. Bosses were also fine, but they suffer more from the lack of variety. I wish at the very least there was a pool of 4 to 5 bosses before the final boss. It gets a tad dull battling them on repeated playthroughs. Keeping the trend of lack of variety, I wish there was more environments to explore. For the most part, each of the sub-facilities felt basically the same in terms of environment, only differences being different enemies. In Sub-Facility 2, you're introduced to those flesh ball spawners. In Sub-Facility 3, you're introduced to the green skulls and the super boxes. But no new active hazards are introduced. The only real environmental hazards present are the spikes and acid. On that note, on to what I didn't like about the game. The lack of facility, enemy, and boss variety is certainly an issue, but I had a greater issue with this game's randomization. Long story short, even on normal mode, I feel the game is a bit too stacked against you. More than a few of the enemy setups are very difficult to go through unless you have enough upgrades and or the correct weapons. The flamethrower along with the tracer spark were my favorite weapons of the game. Although, out of all the weapons I utilized, I still feel the flamethrower is the best out of the bunch. The burn damage over time effect is nice, but its main standout feature is that it pierces true enemies. Without either of those two, the early game is significantly tougher, especially for the first 2 bosses. Unless you're rather skilled with the game, I feel the success of many of my runs is more due to luck. I don't mind if the game demands a lot of skill out of me, particularly if I'm unlucky. Most roguelikes do this, making the best out of bad situations. I don't mind a greater challenge. I don't dislike most of the enemies, bosses, and room setups. Where I have a few issues is with a few of the game's design decisions. Specifically, the lack of health drops, low max HP, and the main character's starting abilities and controls. Outside of 4 runs, health drops in this game were uncommon to rare. And even when they dropped, they were simply a half to 1 heart. Combine that with a low max starting HP of 3, the main character not having that many iframes, health upgrades also being pretty sparse, and the issue with some upgrades and controls means that you'll die a lot, particularly if you're not lucky. When I say issues, I mean there's no slow movement button. I feel the inspector moves too fast by default. It's pretty easy to accidentally walk into enemies or hazards. This aforementioned issue becomes even larger once you acquire the run speed upgrade, as you can never toggle it off. If there was a slow movement button or toggle where you move at half the speed, that would alleviate many of my problems. I don't mind health being more scarce when playing the challenges. Where I do mind it is on normal mode. What I would suggest doing is to either up the rate of health drops and or spawning a health pickup upon a boss's defeat. I like this game and its main selling points of being a pocket-sized Metroidvania as well as having millions and millions of weapon configurations. Yet those aforementioned items railroad me down into a smaller set of viable builds. It pushes you towards a cautious to very cautious playstyle. I kinda wish there was an easy mode of this game, or even perhaps a cheat mode, so I could experiment more with the weaponry. Once again, I don't mind a more difficult experience. I simply wish there were more avenues of recovering from bad luck. Of course, there's likely an entirely different story happening at the higher echelons of skill. All in all, I found this game to be okay at best. There are several things to like about this pocket-sized roguelike Metroidvania. Roguelike, not roguelite as the game describes itself, as nothing persists between runs. There's no meta progression. Would I recommend this game? Only if you're into more difficult roguelikes and are into Metroidvanias. Each run only takes about 30 to 45 minutes to complete. Perhaps longer if you find a second quest. I'd advise you wait for a small sale. Well then, I hope you all enjoyed my blind let's play of Weapon Hacker viewers. Once again, I thank the developer for providing me a key for the title. It's really appreciated. If you enjoyed this Let's Play, please rate, comment, favorite, and or subscribe, as they all help out the channel. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter as well, and join my Discord server, as I regularly post updates there. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you all in a future Let's Play.